Yo, what it is, YouTube? It's your boy Nitsa coming back with another bullseye of a tutorial here today on the channel. I got one right here that's a banger. It's gonna be the HERBO vocal tutorial. So let's play it right away. Let's hear what we got right here. If you guys do have any more ideas or suggestions for any different type of vocal tutorials you want to see, drop it down below. These last few days I haven't been dropping the video. I'm sorry. I'm used to dropping every single day, but I actually been sick. I caught a stomach bug, and also my internet ain't been working either. Whenever you got a lot of blessings and you doing a lot of good, you know, sometimes the devil just try to come stop you. And thanks a lot for y'all being patient with me. So let's listen to this HERBO vocal sauce.
I'm a street nigga that got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. Weed and crack I used to serve. Not like rappers cause they nerds. My bitch snapping, need a purse. Give a rack, she on my nerves. Get it back, I hit the stool. Big traffic with the crew. Hit my savage in the coupe. 2 sachets with us too. I'm in sachets spinning sacks. Got patents on my shoes. Ain't nothing happening in the rack. The caddy bulletproof. Jake gon' hack him like it's Shaq. We whacked him cause he lag. Bad bitch all on my lap, speed Latin that she act. Beat it, crashed it off the yak. Took traction off the track. Being broke, that shit was whack. Ain't never going back.
All right, so let's listen to it, what it sounded like without the processing real quick.
I'm a street nigga that got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. Weed and crack I used to serve. Not like rappers cause they nerds. My bitch snapping, need a purse. Give a rack, she on my nerves. Get it back, I hit the stool. Big traffic with the crew. Hit my savage in the coupe. 2 sachets with us too. I'm in sachets spinning sacks. Got patents on my shoes. Ain't nothing happening in the rack. The caddy bulletproof. Jake gon' hack him like it's Shaq. We whacked him cause he lag. Bad bitch all on my lap, speed Latin it.
All right, so y'all hear the difference right there. We went from having, you know, a basic lame home recording to getting an aggressive trap, Chirac, kind of like a drill, aggressive vocal. So let's listen to how we did it. So the very first thing, whenever I'm engineer or mixing a vocal, I pay attention to what is kind of like the main highlight of the vocal. Sometimes when you're an engineer and you have the artist vocal, it's kind of like a talent show. You gotta, you know, show the whole audience, who is the listeners, what's the good parts about this vocal. And the first thing that I noticed, because I was paying attention, is that little thing in HERBO's voice is kind of like raspy. That's what the word is that little raspiness. I was trying to make sure I could enhance it and get it to hit hard without sounding too harsh, because sometimes like people who have voices like that, where it's very raspy and it's very gritty in the high mid, sometimes it can like kind of come off harsh, especially depending on the type of mic that you're using too. It's always important to know, like, you know, if is the mic hurting, or is it actually helping like capture, you know, the way that the talent of the artist looks like. A little bit of that raspiness is also coming from that little low mid, you know, that little grunt, that I'm in sex with sex. So yeah, I'm just understanding too that HERBO is also from Chicago, and Chicago is not a sweet place, you know, it's a very tough place. So I kept that in mind. The word that I was using when I was mixing this song is attitude. Sometimes before I even mix a song, I might actually literally pull up the word, like what I did here. I pulled up the word attitude, and I was just looking at it while I'm mixing the song, and I'm like, yo, does this song sound like it has attitude? And I feel like I was able to bring that out. The V comp. So this is emulating the Neve 2254 bus compressor. This was kind of like one of those very first compressors used in broadcasting. It's just very known for it being very colored and giving a lot of weight. And it's pretty good because it doesn't have too many options. Like the ratio is fixed. It's not necessarily variable. And I love scrolling through all of the ratios. Usually when I'm doing it with vocal, I use the auto release, because with this one right here, you're kind of handicapped a little bit with the releases, just because it doesn't really let you go there and dial it in. But the auto release is very musical in my opinion, and this 6:1 ratio kind of gave it a lot of girth, a lot of weight, a lot of meat. Let's listen to it with and without.
I'm a street nigga that got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. Weed and crack I used to serve. Not like rappers cause they nerds. My bitch snapping, need a purse. Give a rack, she on my nerves. Get it back, I hit the stool. Big traffic with the crew. Hit my savage in the coupe. 2 sachets with us too. I'm in
So it really just brings the overall vocal to life, specifically the topology, the type of compressor it is. That's why I always say, hey, you know, you guys should pay attention to what each type of topology is and which type of color it brings. I could have used any regular compressor. I'm not thinking about entertainment peaks or something like that. I'm always seeing compression as how can I make this vocal jump off the page and start like directly speaking with the listener, making the listener imagine where the artist is from, which is Chicago. And I was just thinking about Chicago this whole time, how it's Chicago in my opinion. I ain't never been there, but I just believe that the people there, they're solid people. So that's why I wanted to make the vocal sound solid. Multi-band compressor, I'm enjoying the C6 a lot more than the C4 just due to these free floating bands. So whenever I get started on the C6, what I always do is bypass each free floating band, and it puts me in a situation where it's the same exact thing like a regular C4. I go in there, I dial things in, and then after that, I usually use the free floating bands to go in there and tame like the mid-range resonant. There's always a mid-range resonant. That's just the normal part of a human vocal, but I'm preferring the dynamic C6 over just like a static EQ or something like that, just due to the fact that it's still helping keep the life. It's not clamping down on that low mid resonant all the time, which sometimes, I mean, it will make the vocal sound better, but I like its dynamic because it's not gonna work unless it hits that threshold. And you get to also have the opportunity of dialing in the cue for those freeform bands. So let's look at this.
I'm a street nigga that got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. Weed and crack I used to serve. Not like rappers cause they nerds. My bitch snapping, need a purse. Give a rack, she on my nerves. Get it back, I hit the stoop. Big traffic with the crew. Keep my savage in the coupe. 2 satchels with us too. I'm in satchels spinning sacks. Got patents on my shoes. Ain't nothing happening in the rack. The caddy bulletproof. Jake gon' hack him like it's
And that's why I'm also never aggressive with specifically the low mid part, because I don't want my vocal to feel hollow. That's what I always try to tell everyone, that the frequency spectrum is kind of like a Siamese twins. Everything goes hand in hand. You can't just cut one Siamese twin without hurting the other one because they're forever connected. That's literally the frequency spectrum. The left hand goes with the right hand and the left leg goes with the right leg. So that's why I prefer using the dynamic C6 because it's a little bit less invasive. That's the word. The ranges, I'm not being too aggressive with the low mid, but I'm being more aggressive with the top because I'm using that more like as a de-esser, but it's still dynamic and it lets me go in there and dial in the attack and the release times. So the next thing that we have is the R comp. I'm using a very low ratio and I'm using electro automatic release control, which is giving me 1176 style type of compression, but the R comp gives me a little more benefits because I get to pick the ratio. And I also get to put it on automatic release control. I'm using this R comp, the quickest attack and the quickest release, just to pull the whole vocal together, just helping it make it dense overall. As I just came from that C6, and the C6 is giving it a little bit of kind of like utility multi-band compression, but the R comp is just helping everything just become more present and a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more attitude. That's why I picked the electro over the opto.
I'm a street nigga that got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. Weed and crack I used to serve. Not like rappers cause they nerds. My bitch snapping, need a purse. Give a rack, she on my nerves. Get it back, I hit the stoop. Big traffic with the crew. Keep my savage in the coupe. 2 satchels with us too. I'm in satchels spinning sacks. Got patents on my shoes. Ain't nothing happening in the rack. The caddy bulletproof. Jake gon' hack him like.
And I'm also using this warm selection right here. So this is the clean option, this is the warm, and it kind of adds a little bit of saturation to the low mid, just giving it a little bit more body. Then we have the SSLE channel, and I wasn't doing nothing crazy, just doing a little bit of utility. I actually did bump up a little bit. I kind of did like a pull tech kind of thing, cutting and boosting in that same kind of low ballpark. And what that did is that just helped the vocal get a little bit more body, a little bit more weight. I'm just really concerned here because I'm understanding as an engineer, he only gave me a lead vocal, and I need to do everything that I can to make that lead vocal just be kind of like the anchor, be like the emergency brake for this whole song, which is like a car that's riding along. And we also have the SSLE compressor, which I love. Very angry, very attitude, very Chicago. And the next and most important thing I wanted to talk about is with my delay. I did a little something different with my delay here. I actually put a phaser at the back end just because I was listening to the melody as an engineer, and you're gonna hear that no. So I use that as a cue to make something melodic, melodic effect with the vocal. So once I heard that, I said, okay, let me put a little phaser on the delay, and I'm gonna create my own little rhythm. So let's listen.
My nerves, get it back, I hit the stoop. Big traffic with the crew, keep my savage in the coupe. Two savages with a suit, I'm the savages in the sex. Got panties on my shoes, ain't they happy in the rain.
So as you guys see there, sometimes as an engineer, if you only have a lead vocal, you have to figure out some ways of making things become a little bit wavy. And not necessarily people even have to hear the delay, but I just want to make them feel like, oh, you know, something's going on, but it's still cohesive. Something crazy is going on. I mean, the delay is kind of like a person. It's a crazy person, but even though it's crazy, it can still go out in the world and operate and work. RS124. So this has the Verimu topology. This is a tube-based compressor, which means that it actually uses a tube circuitry to do the compression. So with this one, I used a preset called Vocal Presence, and this is an Abbey Road plugin. And we have to understand too that at that time, you know, when there were Abbey Road and Beatles and all that stuff, there was a transition. Originally, a lot of those consoles, they were tube-based consoles, but then along the lines, you know, later towards like the 70s and the 80s, the solid state consoles started to come in, solid state compressors, VCA. And the thing about the VCA components is that it's just a little bit more cleaner. It's a little bit less distortion, a little bit less noise. But with something like the RS214, I'm not only using it just for parallel compression, but just for tone, more weight. And I just love how it gives me the options between studio and cutter, which is just kind of like two types of unit types that just, they have an overall different feel to them. And another one right here was the V-Comp, using it on parallel. So let's look at our ad-libs. The main priority right here with the ad-libs, the thing about me is that I just used the different type, the different coloration of the RS214 just to give it a little bit of contrast. So the lead vocal has its own type of swag, and then the background has its own type of swag, not necessarily just the compression vibe, because one is in parallel, but on the ad-libs, this one is on direct insert. So that's a kind of a way I like to use separation, not always just about EQing or using a different reverb on the ad-libs to the lead vocal, but also using the maybe like the same compressor but with different settings. So it's still cohesive, but it's still giving a little bit of that contrast, a little bit of that separation. And I just love the way the RS124 sounds, just that tube topology. It makes me think of like the retro style level, or even the UAD 175, because those are all like Verimu compressors. So they just get that juice, that attitude, that little bit of aggression, that little bit of meat. And then we have the EQ, which is just pretty much like a regular EQ, but I wasn't too aggressive with the top. I didn't want it to make it sound like too much of an echo. I wanted some of the high end of the ad-lib to come through, just to give it a little bit more anger, a little bit more attitude, a little bit more sizzle on the top, a little bit, like that ad-lib hurts somebody, you know? And we, after that, another type of low-level compression using the R-Comp, just pulling that ad-lib forward and together. Then we have the SSL. And let's pay attention too, I'm doing this method a lot lately, is bouncing between the gate and the compressor of the SSL E channel, whether it be the G or the E. And I love using it on the ad-libs because it just brings in some type of movement, because the gate is gonna start pumping, the compression is pushing it down, but like the gate is kind of like doing this way of like opening and closing the door. It's kind of like a revolving door at a hotel. You know, when you go to like a hotel and you walk through the revolving door, that revolving door is not going to be the same way when you go through it as when you come out of it, kind of, especially if there's people coming in and out of it. It's just going to give you something different every time, like a pumping and breathing. And that's what I was looking for here. And really nothing crazy with the ad-libs after that. I just made sure that when I had my reverb, I used a different type of reverb that had a way longer pre-delay time. So the reverb is not coming in right away on the ad-libs. It's actually taking a little bit of time to come in. So it's just creating the back of the back for the song. So the vocal is kind of like the driver's seat and the passenger seat, but then you have the ad-libs, which is kind of like the trunk. So I use that using the pre-delay, because that pre-delay on the reverb, it makes the reverb take a little bit of time to come in. So the listener doesn't hear it until way then, but it also keeps the ad-libs in focus. And the most important thing for me with using these ad-libs is I kind of made the ad-libs a little bit loud, because I actually had good ad-libs. So don't always let people tell you, oh, you gotta make sure the ad-libs are quiet, they're too loud. It depends on the song, but if you do have good ad-libs, kind of like how I feel like I nailed them right here, I made them a little bit loud, but I didn't make them come up too frequently because I wanted to make it worth it to the listener. I didn't want to just spoil them with a bunch of, candy. I made them work for it. And every time that ad-lib came through, I really felt like they really felt the impact of swerve, rack, I'm in the rack.
I'm a street nigga that got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. We didn't crack, I used to serve. Not like rappers cause they nerds. My bitch snapping, need a purse. Give a rack, she on my nerves. Get it back, I hit the stool. Big traffic with the crew. Keep my savage in the coupe. 2 sachets with us too. I'm in sachets spinning sacks. Got patents on my shoes. Ain't nothing happening in the rack. The caddy bulletproof. Jake gon' hack. I got rich, I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. We didn't crack it, I got rich. I make curves off a brick. See a hoe and hit the curve. What's the word? My name Swerve. We didn't crack.
So as you can hear right there, definitely without that chain, the ad-libs just kind of sounded dull. It sounded like a regular little old home recording, lifeless ad-libs. But when we brought in that chain, it just pushed the ad-libs back and it gave it its own compartment, its own little space inside of the mix. So this is the video that I have for today. I just want to say thanks a lot, guys, for bearing with me these last few days, but I will be making sure I try to stay on top of uploading again. Just, everything's been going on crazy lately. If you guys do want the template down below, go ahead and drop it. If you guys do appreciate these videos, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Appreciate you guys now. Peace.